If there's one word that sums up Peppa Pig, it's definitely fun. But there are also some facts that make this cartoon really weird. Can you remember all the strange details that happen in the Pig family's animated world?
Oh!
There's a secret reality show where the town's residents don't really know they're actually characters in a TV program. The first clue? The fact that there's a narrator talking to the audience, and of course, no one except us can hear him. But the narrator reacts to what's happening in the footage. Don't know which camera we're talking about? There really is someone filming the characters in the show. In the episode George's New Clothes, right at the end of the story, this camera actually appears. When the Pig family is jumping in the mud, the dirt splashes onto the camera lens, meaning the Pig family is being filmed by someone and they have no idea. With this clue, we can assume that every time an episode starts, it's because filming has begun. Miss Rabbit might be one of the producers of the show because in the TV studio episode, she asks the Pig family to do the show's introduction as if they were in a real television program. And speaking of the introduction, get ready to discover the weirdest facts you never knew about Peppa. Another Cinewave episode is starting now. Remember Queen Elizabeth II? The existence of this character in the show reveals something super eerie. Peppa Pig takes place in a universe that exists right next to ours. But how? It's simple. We know the show is completely fictional, but within its own story, Peppa Pig isn't set in the distant future or anything like that. In reality, we're watching an alternate version of our own world. Queen Elizabeth is proof of this. She references a real person from our timeline, meaning we're watching a show where the years match the real world, but the history of these characters is different. The only explanation? Peppa Pig takes place in a parallel dimension. This world has the same places we all know: England, France, Italy, America, and Australia. And here's more proof. In the episode where they travel to New York and pass through Times Square, there's an ad for Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom, which many believe is set in the same universe. But no, if it's being advertised like that, it means that in Peppa's world, the fairy show is just a TV program or maybe even a Broadway musical. There are tons of background characters that appear in different episodes, but we barely know anything about them. The biggest example is Claire Cow, who is most likely Mrs. Cow's niece. She appears in the Shopping and Children's Festival episodes. But there are also others we don't even know the names of, like the brown rabbit walking next to Mr. Rabbit at the amusement park. There are also kids at Mr. Potato's theater show we have never seen before. Look in the first row, next to Claire Cow. There's an unknown rhino, and in the row above, next to George, there's a donkey kid we've never seen before. And who is that mystery pony sitting next to Freddy Fox? It seems like Madame Gazelle's school is way bigger than we thought. There are also unknown adults, like the juice stand owner in the Grandpa Rabbit's boat episode, or even Mr. Badger, who appears at the amusement park and in Potato City. At the same festival Peppa goes to with her family, something really shady is happening, and it's actually illegal. We have no idea how the show's creators let this crime slip through, but Peppa Pig basically pays tribute to outlaws. One example is all the Redbeard the Pirate images that appear. Does the police not know he's a criminal? And even worse, the entire town knows that Mr. Fox is a notorious thief. That should be enough reason for him to be arrested, not just for stealing, but also for selling things that aren't his. A perfect example? Freddy's dad is selling Grandpa Pig's ship-in-a-bottle collection. It's hard to believe that the Pig family, especially Mummy Pig, walked into the antagonist shop and didn't notice Grandpa Pig's collection sitting right there. There's no way Grandpa Pig wanted to sell those ships. So, when Mr. Fox went to his house that night to take the chickens, was he actually up to something else? Would you rather be doing something else instead of watching our video? Comment #no so we can keep talking about Peppa. In the episode The Outback, when Peppa and her family visit Australia, something strange and completely nonsensical happens. To this day, the creators avoid answering this question. How exactly do the Pig family and the kangaroos manage to fly a plane that has no roof? That's impossible. There's a very important reason why airplanes are enclosed, and the most crucial one is to prevent people from being sucked out and suffering a serious accident. We understand that this is a children's fantasy cartoon, but even so, there's no magic in Peppa's world, which means the show's production should follow some basic rules, and airplanes need to be fully enclosed to fly at the altitude the characters were at. Where exactly does Annie Dottie know Annie Pig from? Let's start by pointing out that their names don't make much sense, since technically both characters are Auntie Pig to Peppa and George. One would be from Mommy Pig's side of the family as her sister, and the other from Daddy Pig's side. We know it's possible that Dottie Pig knows Annie Pig because of Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig's marriage. But it's strange because in the Thanksgiving episode, the visitor simply greets her friend as if they've known each other forever. We're almost certain that Daddy Pig has known Aunt Dottie since childhood, as there's a photo of the two together in Peppa's dad's office. That also means Daddy Pig's brother has known Dottie from an early age too. Annie Pig must have come from another pig family, and that's the biggest mystery because, theoretically, Aunt Dottie, as Mummy Pig's sister and Daddy Pig's childhood friend, should only be connected to these pigs. This revelation makes us believe that a long time ago, there were at least 3 pig families in Peppa's town. Mummy Pig and Aunt Dottie's family, Daddy Pig and Uncle Pig's family, and the third family would be the one that raised Annie Pig. But what happened to Annie Pig's parents? We don't know any other pigs besides Peppa's relatives. That's very strange. Speaking of Aunt Dottie, how did she go to England to celebrate Thanksgiving when that country doesn't observe the holiday? Aunt Dottie lives in the United States, and that's fine. Adults can move far away if they want. But as we already know, she's English, meaning she knows that Thanksgiving isn't a tradition in her hometown. It would make much more sense for her to visit her relatives for a holiday they all recognize as common in England. In fact, this actually proves something else that's hard to say about Aunt Dottie. She must have moved to the United States at a very young age, raising the theory that Mummy Pig made that trip to reconcile with her family and friends. Did Aunt Dottie do something wrong? Speaking of doing things that aren't right, the experts in that field are the town's police officers. Not because they know exactly how to fight crime, but because they're terrible at it. One of the most embarrassing moments happened when they were with Peppa, George, and Freddie Pig hunting for pirates. They find Captain Redbeard, and the whole conversation is cringeworthy. First, they approach Captain Redbeard and say they need to find out if he's a pirate. Officer Panda even says that his pirate costume looks real, and so does his boat. But let's think about this. If a boat is on the sea and it floats, that means it's a real boat, right? So it doesn't look like a pirate ship, it is a pirate ship. The next thing that happens is even more ridiculous. Captain Redbeard literally makes up a holiday and the police believe him. He says he's dressed like an outlaw because it's the day to act like a pirate, and of course both Officer Panda and his partner believe him. You know what we don't believe? That you still haven't subscribed to the channel and turned on notifications. Come on, it's time to join our club. Speaking of Officer Squirrel, she's done plenty of crazy things too. She hands out tickets to things that haven't done anything wrong. In the Pirate Boat episode, she writes a ticket for a parked boat, and the fine is just to explain that it's Pirate Day. In the police car episode, she gives a ticket to a broken down car. But how is that even possible? If a vehicle breaks down, it's not a crime, it's just a minor accident. But still, the owner of the car has to pay. And the most unbelievable thing, she wrote a ticket for a lamppost inside the police station. And the reason? Because Officer Panda bumped his face into it. We just want to know, who's gonna pay the electricity bill? One of the weirdest things in Peppa's world is the fact that there's a Mrs. Rabbit in every town. The funniest moment happened when Peppa's family traveled to America and the two characters met. Peppa asked the taxi driver, "Are you Mrs. Rabbit?" "But she's Mrs. Rabbit," she said, pointing at the character who piloted the plane. That's when the American Mrs. Rabbit explained that every town has a different rabbit. In France, for example, there's Madame Le Pen, who is clearly the same character but speaks a different language. We've already told you about the strong theory that all these rabbits are actually clones, and that's why they act like the same person. But let's leave that mystery hanging for now. One strange thing about the Queen is the fact that she lives alone. Have you ever noticed that? When Peppa and her friends travel to London, we get to see Queen Elizabeth II's palace, but it's really odd that this elderly woman lives in that huge castle without a single guard. She's the queen of the country. She should have servants and soldiers taking care of her. If you need proof, just look at the end of the episode. When Elizabeth goes to jump in the mud with Peppa, she goes to get her own boots, as if there's no one in the entire castle to help her with that. That's seriously weird. You know what's not weird at all? Keeping up with our videos. That's why we've got 2 more for you to enjoy. There are still tons of mysteries and fun facts in Peppa's world, so stay tuned for the next videos. See you then!